The Securities and Exchange Commission is charging the former head of the failed cryptocurrency exchange FTX with defrauding investors and using consumer funds to make other investments and buy real estate.
So the charges against Sam Bankman-Fried are separate from criminal charges filed in federal court. Details of those charges are set to be unsealed this morning. Bankman-Fried was arrested yesterday in the Bahamas, where he lives. Now, he's the founder of FTX, a once high-flying cryptocurrency exchange that made him a billionaire in his 20s. But last month, investors started pulling out in droves, causing that exchange to collapse.
Prosecutors basically say this whole thing was a house of cards, similar to a Ponzi scheme, which we all learned about during the Bernie Madoff era. But Bankman-Fried, in an interview with ABC earlier this month, denies all that.
People lost a lot of money. And, I mean, at the end of the day, look, there's a question of what happened and why and who did what caused the meltdown. And I think that reads very differently, right? When you look at the classic Bernie Madoff story, there was no real business there. The whole thing, as I understand it, I think was just one big Ponzi scheme, right? FTX, that was a real business.
He was at the now Bankman-Fried is expected to appear in court today in the Bahamas. He will eventually, though, be extradited here to the U.S. to face charges.
And he was supposed to testify virtually today before a congressional committee investigating the collapse of FTX before he got arrested. Congressional correspondent Stephanie Liebergen is live in Washington, D.C. with the latest on that hearing. Good morning, Stephanie.
Hey guys, good morning. Well, lawmakers in the House Financial Services Committee were ready to grill Bankman-Fried today. There were going to be a lot of eyes on this committee hearing, and now lawmakers are going to be going forward, at least as we last know, with the current CEO of FTX, that's John Ray. He is still expected to testify. He has sent in opening statements already to the committee. He was the guy that was brought in on November 11th to take over and handle this bankruptcy process for FTX. But when he testifies later this morning, I would not expect him to mince words or necessarily be friendly to FTX and the way that the company was run. In his opening statement, he calls it an utter failure of corporate controls at all level. So his goal, he says, is try to recoup as much money as possible for customers. Now, when it comes to lawmakers, there seems to be a lot of interest in doing something with the crypto world, potentially in the next Congress. But there certainly seems to be some agreement that the cryptocurrency world needs some kind of oversight. Take a listen.
One thing is already apparent. The crypto industry lacks the customer protections that Americans expect and deserve when trading in U.S. markets. When exchanges accept customer funds for trading, they must not be allowed to gamble with those funds. They must not be allowed to invent products that have little or no intrinsic value and accept them as collateral for loans. And they must not be allowed to self-deal.
Now, in his Twitter post leading up to this hearing, Bankman-Fried seemed to be a little potentially reluctant, you could say, to testify before the committee, saying that he wasn't really sure how much information he would be able to share at the time, but he was expected to appear virtually today from the Bahamas. Now, the other thing to keep in mind with this hearing today in House Financial Services Committee, Bankman-Fried, before the FTX crash and before he lost almost all of his money, he had donated millions of dollars to politicians in the 2022 midterm elections. In fact, a Newsy analysis of FEC reports shows 6 Democratic members of the House Financial Services Committee that was set to grill him today received money during their during their campaigns in 2020 to try to go for re-election. So would certainly potentially present some conflicts of interest for members of the committee this morning. But now we'll just kind of have to wait and see if Bankman-Fried is ever available to testify for Congress, because House Financial Services wanted him today. A Senate Banking Committee was hoping to get more information from him later this week.
Congressional correspondent Stephanie Liebergen reporting for us this morning. Thanks, Stephanie. All right, so let's chat about the arrest and criminal charges against Bankman-Fried. We have Aaron Kaplan, securities attorney and CEO of Prometheum. Thank you so much for joining us. So we've learned about, the different charges from the SEC. Now, these are separate from the criminal charges, which will be unsealed this morning. What is the difference in these charges?
So what we saw from the federal government were criminal charges. On the SEC side, there'll be more civil action where they could potentially go after Sam Bankman-Fried's personal assets, maybe through injunctive relief. On the federal side is where you'll see the jail time and actually potential limitations to Sam Bankman-Fried's personal freedoms occur.
Let me just step back for a second, just for the benefit of folks who may not, like me, fully understand crypto or appreciate why this guy is such. Not alone. I know I'm certainly not alone. Or appreciate why this is such a big story. Is it fair to say that this guy basically was the Zuckerberg or Musk of the crypto world? He was a big dog in this world. Is it fair to say that in terms of this new crypto craze that we're going through right now, that he was a huge fish in that?
Yeah, that's a fair representation. I think what he would do that's a little bit different is he combined the sort of Internet 2.0 consumer, social media aspects with financial assets. And when that occurs, you need to have regulation, or else you have events like what happened with FTX and Alameda.
And do you think that this arrest, how does it affect the entire business of cryptocurrency? And for folks who don't understand or are skeptical of the whole thing, are you worried that this arrest only adds to people's skepticism and confusion about this brave new financial world?
So people talk about the crypto winter all the time, and I think that's a result of the excessive risks and lack of institutional controls that occurred when we were in the virtual currency exchange, the traditional virtual currency exchange side. I think that we're moving to a new era of an ATS is regulated under the federal securities laws. And I think that seeing here with this arrest is the washout of all the riffraff, and what's going to happen after this is that the imposition and the application of the federal securities laws as the framework to regulate digital assets will result in the crypto spring occurring and really the next wave of institutional adoption.
How difficult is it, though, because there's virtually no regulations when it comes to crypto. So given this situation and the fact that there are no regulations on it, how realistic is it that there will be in the near future? How can the government kind of wrangle this in so that people that may be interested in it someday have a little bit more faith that, this is something that's not going to be sketchy, which may not be the right word to describe crypto, but some people may feel that way.
I don't necessarily agree with the statement that there's no regulation. There has been enforcement action taken by the SEC on the security side. And just because people have not followed the federal securities laws doesn't mean they don't apply. So I think that what we're going to see is all intermediaries in the space, virtual currency exchanges, crypto custodians having to register either as ATSs or as special purpose broker dealers under the federal securities laws.
Now, the company owes its creditors at least $3 billion. I'm curious about how those folks, if those folks ultimately get paid, and what's the impact financially on just average investors who are now worried about what they get back in light of bankruptcy and, of course, the criminal proceedings we'll learn more about today.
I think the danger, because of jurisdiction shopping and operating outside of the United States and not sort of complying with the securities laws, led to a situation where FTX and Alameda sort of commingled customer funds and assets. And they lost a significant amount of money, somewhere between $10 to $50 billion is what certain numbers estimate. And I don't think that customers will necessarily be able to recover. But again, I think as a result of this, what we're going to see is more rapid application of the federal securities laws, which would have prevented occurring in the first place, because you have to separate customer funds from assets. You can't commingle. It's specifically not allowed. So once you have actual proper frameworks in place and applied, I think that, again, the industry will be able to move forward.
All right. Aaron Kaplan, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.